we need to talk. Recently, HSR released a controversial Memory of Chaos cycle. And what better way to talk about my thoughts than to yell at my computer screen? So let's skip the intro and get right into it. So we will be talking about what makes perfect endgame, who should be clearing endgame, and of course the big talk of the video, does the endgame need to be adjusted, and do I think it will be adjusted? All this will be covered in today's video because every topic matters. While I myself have been having no real problems with that particular endgame, I'm gonna be fair, I'm not gonna be out of touch because I'm clearing easily. Now, why we need to talk about all of this is because of the fact that the terrible players also just expect easy clears. That is a factor that I have to discuss as well, and it's another factor that made me consider making this video, because that's also an important key in all of this. Now guys, it's been a few good weeks without drama, so let's see what happens. First, let's talk about what makes a perfect endgame. An endgame for a gacha game should be a test with a balanced amount of investment check, a balanced amount of skills check, and a test to see what you do to counter the enemy. All of this is what makes an endgame perfect. Now with that being said, I personally think that no endgame release right now is close to being that perfect. Let me explain by going through each endgame mode and how I think it is. For example, for WoWA, we have Tower of Adversity and Whimpering Wastes. I beat both modes for rewards, but I have a problem with WoWA's endgame. It's too unbalanced. For Tower of Adversity, it's a test to see how well you build your units and how well you can kill the enemy. But here's the thing, it's also a check to see how long you've been playing the game. You see, I only recently beat Tower of Adversity. I've been training myself a lot to polish my skills, and this was yet another benchmark for me. That shows I'm getting better. But here's the issue. Until you're insanely cracked at the game, unless you got unlimited units, high time investment, and decent relic investment, no level of skill can overcome this for you. And that's speaking for the majority of the player base. I'm not going to call endgame easy anymore just because I beat it. I'm going to call it easy when I know it's easy. Now, with that being said, I think that Whimpering Wastes is much better in terms of structure. If they balance the enemy spawn types and enemy behaviors, they might make the best endgame ever. But it's like I said, the enemy behaviors are unbalanced. Now, all this talk about WoWA, and I didn't talk about ZZZ, so here are my thoughts on that. In ZZZ, the endgame modes are Shiyu Defense and Deadly Assault. Shiyu Defense is probably like the third least terrible on this list because it requires less playtime, but still requires a decent amount of investment. I was able to clear the most recent Shiyu Defense, with mistakes and all, while still getting full rewards. Right now, it's probably the most balanced endgame I've played in a Honeyverse game. I'm not going to make an opinion on Deadly Assault yet, because I have no properly structured opinion on it. Now, on the other hand, I've been playing Honkai Star Rail since the week after it came out. I've played every endgame mode. I've beaten every endgame mode. So with my experience, let's get into the meat of this video. Now, for Honkai Star Rail, we have 3 endgame modes: Memory of Chaos, Pure Fiction, and Apocalyptic Shadow. Out of the games I mentioned here today, these are the most endgame modes in one game. But upon further consideration, I've come to realize how badly structured the endgame is. Let me explain. Now, for Apocalyptic Shadow, the mode itself isn't too difficult. All you have to do is break the boss enemy's weakness as quickly as possible so you can do more damage. They incorporate past bosses and spice up the mechanics so you actually have a legitimate fucking challenge. So in terms of being absurd, I think that this specific mode just requires the right characters and strategies. There's an abundance of like Honkai Star Rail tier lists for a reason. Now for Pure Fiction is the easiest endgame mode. All you have to do is bring an AoE character. There's even one that you can get to E6 for free, Herta, and she's good. Pure Fiction as a mode is boring, and with the addition of Pure Fiction's rework, things just become easier. It's easy, it's not fun, and for someone who's struggling to clear, it's worse when you can't clear. But now, we move on to the worst endgame mode in Honkai Star Rail, Forgotten Hall, Memory of Chaos. For Memory of Chaos, you have to kill 2 waves of enemies as quickly as possible for full rewards. Now, the concept itself doesn't sound too hard, right? But let me introduce you to the concept of HP inflation. Now, this term has been going around a lot, so what exactly is HP inflation? HP inflation is when the devs decide to amplify the enemy's HP by a huge margin. Before this wasn't an issue, because of the fact that MOC, when Rapid came out, became way too easy. With the introduction of Super Break, people were getting easy clears without the need to think, so the devs increased the HP on floors 10 to 12. Now, before I didn't think it was bad because they were right, it was too easy. But here's where things get complicated. So, recently, HSR released the first Memory of Chaos for 3.x. I cleared it easily, and went on to defend the company because I thought it was just another case of people doom posting, as it has been throughout the entirety of 3.x so far. Which is why I didn't pay the crowd any mind, because they were, in my opinion, wrong most of the time. But that was until I witnessed two things. One, China was getting angry. China rarely gets angry at Hoyoverse, and when they do, they demand a change. And two, I redid the MOC. This time, my lightning DPS on the second floor of MOC 12 was Acheron. Now, at first I was like, yeah, this ain't too bad, until the time came to do Acheron's half. By the time the enemy was at 13 HP, like 13% HP, I was about to lose a star. So, I backed out. This right here is when it hit me. Honkai Star Rail needs to seriously adjust the endgame. Now, all things considered, there are still a few things I need to say about all of this, so let's move on to the climax of this video. Now, with all this being said, I'm just gonna flat out say it. You do not deserve to clear any endgame if you don't try to understand the game. This is why I struggled in Shade Defense. This is why I struggled in COA. And hell, before probably like 2.4 in HSR, I was not consistently beating endgame. I was fucking struggling on the endgame too. How about that? Now, you're probably wondering, why did I use more than just Star Rail as an example here? Well, here's the thing. Although I don't like the endgame in the other games, the endgame in those games are more balanced. It requires you to have more than just a good build, but a good strategy, a good game sense, good skill. It's not just tap the win button. You have to make your own win button. Star Rail has not felt like that in the recent MOC. So, trust me guys, I completely understand now in the current situation. The current state of Memory Chaos is unbeatable unless you have the star of the show, or the units and update before them. That is way more blatantly obvious than before. But once they hopefully do fix the endgame, since it seems to be a possibility now that China is angry, you guys have seriously got to understand something. The difficulty will not change unless you decide to play correctly. Here's an example. Tectone tries to clear Apocalyptic Shadow with a certain team. That team ends up failing. Now, it just so happens that this team is on the limited banners. That was a rough voice crack, by the way. Anyways, he pulls for the Eidolons and says,
"Welcome to Honkai Star Rail, where money can get you everything that you need."
And here's where that was wrong at the time. I used the same DPS that he was using, except I had her best teammates, and, note this, I was playing correctly. Now you may be saying, oh, but of course you had no problem. But just hear me out. What took a rich dude who wasted his money and so much more time took me one attempt. And, funny story, he was actually close to beating it. But just because he had a bad run, and since he didn't want to put actual effort into the game mode where strategy matters, he decided not to try again, unless it was with Eidolons he didn't even need. Here's another example. Now, I know someone in real life who has good units with their Lycos. But guess what? I love this guy to death, but I took more time to invest in my units and make them good. So guess who cleared the content? Me. Because I made the right moves. Do you see what I'm saying now when I say that even if the endgame is fixed, the difficulty will not change unless you decide to play correctly? I'm not saying that to be a dick. I'm saying that because it's fucking true. I was bad at the game too, but when I got better, I started clearing. Money doesn't always solve these problems, so yes, I hope that the endgame gets fixed, sure. but also take the time to improve on your own skill in the process. Trust me, it will make you feel so much better when you can clear like that. But yeah, I just want to talk about the endgame since it's like an actual problem now, so that's about it for today's video. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like the video and subscribe for more gacha gaming content. We're trying to reach 500 subs, so subscribe to make that possible. Comment down below what you want to see next, and check out my community tab in Discord for updates on upcoming videos. Be sure to also check out my Twitter. I shitpost for Fire Free creators and some dumb essays, so check that out as well. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!